Welcome to Savvy Business, Life Unscripted, with your host, Christina Rivera, where our guests share their wisdom and valuable business tips, empowering our audience to expand their personal potential.
Hi, AJ Hernandez. Welcome to Savvy Broadcasting Life Unscripted. I'm so grateful to have you here this evening for our Life After COVID series. And you are the president and CEO of SkyPostal.com. It is the leading private mail organization in Latin America. And you're going to overtake, hopefully, the other two biggies we talked about earlier very shortly, because it's always great when there's competition out there. But a lot of businesses are struggling right now after COVID, and you're going to let them know what do they have to know for shipping with regards to shipping in 2021. But before we go there, share a little bit about how you came to creating SkyPostal.
Well, I was kind of born into this business. My father, I'm lucky to have been able to come work for my dad about almost 30 years ago. Gosh, did I just say 30 years ago? My goodness. So he is one of the founding fathers of the courier industry and the international courier industry. As a matter of fact, he traveled around the world with the H in DHL, setting up in customs clearance and the network necessary to handle international couriers. So you're talking about the 1970s. So in 72, he opened his first office in Caracas, Venezuela. And from that point on, he developed a regional network. I joined him in the early 90s. And we had a successful business called Skynet at the time that we sold to a large Latin American airline who at the time was called LAN Chile. And then they're now called LATAM, if you're familiar with Latin American.
I've heard of both, actually. When you mentioned,
So we had a lot of success with that. And in 2001, we started SkyPostal. And SkyPostal at the time started as a business dedicated to feeding the need for a reliable postal delivery in Latin America. Latin America, unlike the US and Canada and Europe, do not have very reliable postal networks. Wow. So the European posts at the time were going through a period of deregulation, which allowed them to privatize and thus go outside of the UPU, or what is called the World Mail Networks. So they didn't have to work with the Argentine Post or the Brazilian Post or the Mexican Post. They were able to go find private solutions that were not only cheaper, but offered a much better service. So it was really a no-brainer. And that's how we really built our business of focusing on that need for good service into the region. And we built that on the back of a network that we had already created over the many decades that my father had been in the industry. In 2008, we decided to get back into the package, e-commerce, B2C space. And so we started to offer Latin Americans a U.S. address service, wherein our building in Miami served as their U.S. address. And that's important because even in 2008, most merchants didn't ship internationally. So people in Latin America who wanted to shop even from an Amazon, they had to have an address in the United States. And so we facilitated that for them. We had had over 500,000 clients in the region that used our building as their address in Miami. And they were able to shop as if they were a resident of Miami.
Yeah, that is fabulous. That is such a great service, and one that you take for granted here living in the U.S. How it is so accessible and that we can get what we need when we need it and don't have to. Now, one thing I'm thinking that made you so successful in the Latin American market was probably your customer service. Because one thing I've gotten from some places are maybe private, not privately run, but maybe government run, not always the best customer service, not always as cheap as you mentioned, not as inexpensive, I should say. But tell me about how you're different than some of the postal services as far as your customer service. How do you deal with the customers?
Well, we actually have customer service. So that's a big difference between us and the posts of the region. It's not hard to compete with postal services in the region. Unfortunately, they're underfunded. They've not got technology. They've not got staff. They have a lot of turnover. it's you don't want. I'm not disparaging government employees, but it's government run entities that have to deal with government bureaucracy. Whereas a private business, you're worried about providing a good service, because if you don't, you're not going to be in business much longer. Whereas a government entity doesn't have to really worry about staying in business. So,
yeah, absolutely.
Customer service for us is primary to everything that we do.
Yeah, I totally get that. In fact, some of the larger, huge corporations I've worked with in the past, the sticky red tape is similar to the government organizations, because when you get really huge, you have to go through several channels and processes. And if you're smaller, you're able to provide sometimes better customer service because you don't have all those channels and red tape to go through. So now what's changed? After COVID, it's kind of changed the whole globe. How has it changed your business and how you run it?
Well, COVID has increased we've grown 3 times our volumes in the last year because of COVID. So we're one of the few and very lucky companies that have been able to benefit from the COVID crisis, in that people were forced to shop online, especially in Latin America, a region where people were wary of putting their credit cards on a computer, of buying something online. They were not as used to it, as you alluded to earlier, to buying and getting your stuff the next day. That's not the culture down there. And they were forced to do it. And that has created a massive growth. As a matter of fact, Latin America is the fastest growing e-commerce region in the world because of it. And that has caused our volumes to go up. And I think it's created the new norm in the region. People are now comfortable. They've gotten over that barrier of shopping online. Hey, I've done it. It works. Oh my goodness, I got my stuff. Oh, they didn't steal my credit card number. So now I'm more comfortable shopping, and that's created more volumes for us, since we deliver for companies like Amazon, eBay, a lot of the big e-tailers in the United States. So we've benefited from that. Now, the challenges that come with that is also less people are flying, right?
Yes.
And since less people are flying, airlines have less flights. Well, we put our stuff on flights. We need planes to take our stuff into country. And when you don't have a lot of frequency, the law of supply and demand comes crashing down on you, and you realize, wow, there's not a very big supply of airlift, as we call it. And now we have to pay for it because there's a great demand. So shippers have to understand, or people that are sending things have to understand, that there are definitely bottlenecks caused by this massive increase in volumes to the region. And it's not only because of the perfect storm of a lot of people are shopping online, but it's also there's a lot less transport available to get it down to them.
Wow.
And so it's a challenge, but it's a good challenge to have.
Yeah, it's a challenge of growth, and you have to figure out how to keep the growth going and how to meet the demand. Well, you mentioned something very interesting that I don't think people who are waiting for a package think about. I've had quite a few packages in the past 6 months because I've also had to work from home.
Right.
That say, oh, please, due to COVID or storms or whatever, there's going to be delay. And people don't think, well, my package always came in 3 days. What's going on? Why is it taking 2 weeks? But it's good you mentioned that, so that people realize that not only may some of the costs go up for shipping because of that reason, but that you might have to wait a little bit longer because of that.
No question. It's not just, and when I speak of I'm speaking of Latin America because that's my experience, but I'm telling you that worldwide delivery infrastructures have been overburdened. The United States doesn't even have enough truckers, enough flights, enough delivery personnel to handle the massive increase in home delivery of goods. Yeah. So that's what's caused delays with things that we used to get next day or in 2 days. We might have to wait 3 days. And of course, we complain about 3 days, where in Latin America, if they get something in 10 days, they're Yay. Yeah, they're happy about it,
Like, so, yay, that was awesome.
Yeah. So, everything is relative.
Yeah.
But we are spoiled in the United States, but we definitely have felt that growth.
Well, tell me, there's something else that's come across here, and to random people I've spoken to, they said, well, now that I've gotten everything delivered from my groceries to Amazon, whatever it might be, people are like, I think I'm going to stick with this because I like not having to go in my car and travel somewhere and carry it or whatever, or go long distances when I could just have it brought straight to my door. So I see this trend continuing maybe not to the same extent as when we're all on lockdown, but I can definitely see the home deliveries continuing.
Christina, I agree 100%. I believe that there will be a plateau, obviously, but I don't think that we're ever going to go back to where the volumes were a year ago. I think that there's now a new baseline that's been created because of this, that people are just not they're going to say, I'm staying home. Listen, I know that I'm one of those people. My goodness, I'm going to continue to do my groceries online. I'm going to continue. I always shopped online, and God knows I come home and every day there's a new box in my house. So I know somebody in my family ordered something. So that's not going to change. And I think that's going to continue.
Yeah, I believe so. What do you see will change other than delivery service for your company, SkyPostal, and maybe the whole industry going forward? Do you see massive changes? Because you did mention now there's a less of demand for actual travel. Will they add more fleets for just shipping of goods? Because if that's, what do you
know what I think? I think that as more people get the vaccine and travel increases, you'll have an increase in frequency of flights. Flights will get back to normal. I think it will take, another year before flying is back to normal. But I think that over the next 6 to 8 months, we start seeing some kind of normalization and at least an increase in the frequencies that will get us back to the service levels that we were prior to COVID. So yeah, that's a change, but I think that'll get better. It'll improve.
Yeah. Well, you've been in this industry for so long, and paramount in your industry is customer service. What has been some of your greatest lessons you've learned in your journey here, creating SkyPostal and your other businesses?
Well, the truth is, there's a really cliche adage, but the customer's always right, and you better make sure that they remember that they're right, and treat your customers as you wish to be treated. And I think that if you treat the people that you work with well, they tend to treat the people that we service well. So I think that's very important. It kind of has to be a philosophy of treat everybody well, and then I think that passes on to the client. And we really try to do that. And I think we've been lucky. That's something my father instilled in me, and we've tried to put that throughout our company. And we're one of the things I'm most proud of is we have employees that have been with us over 30 years. And so to have employees that are able to stick around, I think that speaks a lot to the culture of our business and how we run our company. Granted, we try to keep it as a family business, but as we've grown, we've had, sometimes it's hard to do, but we don't want to go to that place that you alluded to earlier about, the corporate bureaucracy. I don't want to lose that. I want to maintain our kind of mom and pa family thing without, obviously not. You had to add professionalism. You had to bring in additional talent. You had to bring in some, I don't want to say bureaucracy, but some corporate controls, let's say, as you grow. Yeah. But we don't want to lose sight of that.
No, I totally get you. And you mentioned something very important that I don't think gets touched on all the time by businesses, which is, customers always right, or paying attention and making sure you give exceptional customer service. But on the other hand, I've been to quite a few as a consultant going to businesses. I've been to quite a few businesses where they don't do that same attention for their employees. And they're kind of like, well, you're a dime a dozen and get a new one. And when you treat people like that, they know that, and it's going to go pass right on to your customers.
That's what I think. I mean, honestly, I really believe that.
No, I think
really
you're right.
do.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen it when I've had the few bosses or companies that really treat their employees like, hey, you matter, you're part of this company, we couldn't do it without you. The attitude is like, we'll go to bat for you was what I feel from the employees. So yeah, so this is a great model. I know that what you've passed on today to our listeners, just those couple of very important insights that they can carry into their business, which is, make sure your customer is number one, and that pay attention to your employee, make sure that they are also treated as number one, so they can pass that wonderfulness on to their employee, to their customers. And also, stay patient. It's going to be tough getting going, but your packages will get there.
It'll get there. But hang in there.
Where can people find out more about SkyPostal and what you all are doing? Because some people might have family in Latin America. They want to use your services.
check us out at SkyPostal.com. You can also email us at info@SkyPostal.com, and one of our teammates will get back to you.
That's great. Now, you had mentioned you have some e-services online. Is it hard for anyone who's not used to it to use your services online? How does it go about? I thought.
No, it's not. The U.S. address service is what caters to the individual shopper. They can sign up, and it's called Punto Mil, and the person can go and sign up and get their U.S. address. Now, on the other side, because we have the client facing, and then we have the seller facing. So the seller facing they're really more consolidators and big shippers. That's a different thing. It's not the one shipment for that one individual. So it's kind of two different business models that we get to put into the same network to deliver.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, everyone go check out SkyPostal.com. If you have any family, or you have business in Latin America, they are your people to get your packages there safe and on time. And I had to thank you again, AJ, for coming to Savvy Broadcasting. Thank you.
Christina, it's my pleasure. Thank you so much. You have a great evening.
You too. Take care.
Like, subscribe, and share this episode. To listen to more Savvy episodes and Savvy Biz Tips, go to www.lifeunscriptedradio.com. To find out about our paid sponsorship opportunities or how to become a guest, email Christina at lifeunscriptedradio.com.